Evening, snipers, and welcome back to Sniper Sundays. I hope you're all well and hope you are ready for a big week in the market. Lots of people ask me, do we trade in December? I had a few messages in the group asking people, will it get quiet? There will be a few quiet days over the Christmas period, but like I mentioned, I'll explain more about this at the end. We're going to be doing a hell of a lot of stuff within the community, even though it's Christmas. But next week is going to be a massive week in the market. It's going to be busy. I'm going to show you the calendar in a minute, and there is so much news coming out. And after last week, the way that the week finished, I think that there's going to be trades all over the place personally next week, and we have to be on it from the start of the week. There's news coming out all Monday morning, Euro news. I'll go all over that in a minute, but yeah, it's going to be a busy week. So also because it is the sort of last week before Christmas. It's not even the last week. We've still got next week as well. Then we'll have a couple of days because this class is a bank holiday, Christmas Day, bank holiday. Then the market's back to normal. And then there's another couple of bank holidays. So really, there's only a few days off in over the next couple of weeks where the market's actually closed, or not closed, but it's a bank holiday. And yeah, but as I said, apart from that, we're going to be doing lots of. If the market is quiet, then it's actually going to be to our benefit because we're not going to sit around and not do anything while the market's quiet. We're going to do lots of educational stuff, webinars, and lots of other stuff like I told you I've got in store. So what we're going to do today, guys, I'm going over my charts. You can see in front here I've got monthly levels. Now, it's one thing we're going to do over Christmas, not just myself and something that you need to do, is don't be lazy. Like I said, if you want to make money, you can't be lazy. You have to put in the hard work. And what I do at Christmas time, because you've got time, you're off work, you have a few bank holidays and stuff, you use this to your advantage. It's time to learn more. Get yourself more knowledge, learn more, have time, sit down at the charts for the whole day, looking at stuff, going back, testing and so on. But one thing that I do at Christmas is I clear my charts. I clear a lot of my charts of all the levels, of all monthly key levels, because these levels are good. They are very good. You can keep them on your chart for 3 months, 6 months, even a year. A lot of these pairs like Euro USD, I've had these levels on for a long time. But the year's done. A lot's happened in a year. Even with like pairs like pound, GBP, USD and stuff, all the Brexit news and so on, things don't just stay the same. You've got to move. You can't be lazy and just keeping the same levels on. Sure, some of them might be the same, but again, we're not going to be lazy. We're going to say, right, there's a whole 12 months of monthly candlesticks. There's weekly candles. So everything can change now. So now the weekly or monthly candlesticks levels could change. So we're going to clear off our charts and we're going to go for all new levels again. So next year or over Christmas, what you're going to get from me is you're going to see all new levels, all new monthly levels on every single pair that we have. You can see now on some pairs because it's been very choppy at the end of the year. Nothing we can do about that, guys. I think you can obviously see the market conditions haven't been great. Great for us or any sort of retail traders. I'm seeing a lot of retail traders out there who are used to having big months that are scraping a couple of percent a month at the moment because the market just been so bad. We're coming to the end of the year. Now it's time to sort of clear everything, get the new levels, and then in January then the momentum starts to pick up and we have a good start to the year. Like when we started the first month in the community, I think we had there was a week we had hundreds and hundreds of pips and so on when the market was good. But then at the tail end of the year, things are really not slowed down, but have been really choppy. Last week as well was obviously disappointing for us. We had 100 pips up on USD JPY. We had 100 pips up, 50 pips up on USD Swiss. And then both with that crazy movement that we had, they both came back down and hit break even. So what I'm getting at is that it is going to be the last week and a half before Christmas and the bank holidays. So I'm going to be looking for a lot of intraday trades this week. Short stops, nice, maybe 30, 40, 50 pip moves if we can see them. Bagging a nice 2% here, 3% there, and so on. But maybe more trades, but smaller take profits because we haven't had the swing trades this year towards the end of it. We've had some, like Euro, NZD and so on, but we haven't had as many as normal. So what we're going to do is go for the intraday trade. So this week looks like it's going to be a very, very busy week for that. So from the off, I think we could have trades on euro, pound, and so on. So you can see here um, on Monday, straight away, we got 8 o'clock in the UK, 8:15, 8:30, 9:30. We got Euro news, GBP news, then we got USD news, and more GBP news. Lots of movement, especially following the Euro and GBP moves last week. Then we got New Zealand dollar and Aussie dollar on Tuesday news coming out. Wednesday we got more Euro, more pound, more New Zealand dollar, some Canadian dollar news. Thursday, Aussie dollar, Japanese yen, pound. And then Friday, we've got pound and Canadian dollar again. So it is a busy, busy week this week, guys. So we need to be on the ball from the off. And we're going to be looking at taking, as I said, some intraday trades. So just to clarify, just what I've been saying is over the Christmas period, I've mentioned a few times that we're going to be doing, I'm going to do like some extra webinars. Remember, we have the live stream tomorrow evening to follow up on the Fibonacci webinar. And then tomorrow evening, I'm going to tell you about the new feature that I've got for you guys as well. So while we're doing the live tomorrow, or the live stream, I'll tell you about the new feature that we've got. So yeah, there's loads of stuff coming out for you guys. And yeah, over the Christmas period, as I said, we can even jump on some of these lives and actually do some monthly levels together, breaking down the chart, and then just setting up some of our charts for next year. But obviously, I'll be clearing my charts. I'll have all new levels on my charts. So then when we sit down, or as you see my charts over the Christmas period, you're gonna have brand new key levels on 15, 20 pairs that we will be looking at. So let's get into it for next week, because as I said, busy week, so we need to get going and cover quite a range. So here we have Euro USD. We know that we've been looking at this since last night for Sundays, and that this is overall bearish, guys, and quite obvious here. Trend line, or also as we call them, direction line, just shows you the direction of the market. So you can see here we're pushing down, had this little push up here, but we adjust that to that point where price pushed back down. We can see here last week we were trying to break out of this trend line. Drop down to the daily chart. As explained last week, we have to remember, yes, we are looking quite bearish at the moment with this move, because we came up and tapped this last lower high, or tapped this resistance, but we are still in buy territory where we've actually come down, where we're still actually broken above this trend line. See this nice bullish push. So drop down to the 4 hour. What I actually see on this pair, we have the news, so we have to be careful. We do have Euro news first off straight away, but I don't see this pair coming straight back down straight away. If we can see here, we've got 0.1, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. We pushed up high. I'm going to be watching for around this level now. Actually, let me put that back, because, like I always say, we always test the level more than once. So I don't see us pushing back down and running away from this price completely and coming back down. I see a push back up. Whether we come back down first and tap this level or this trend line, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, possibly 0.4, or we could come back down and test this broken trend line here once again. You can see here we've got this level of sort of support, or resistance, support, resistance here, broke through, resistance here, resistance, sorry guys, broken through, acting as support, and then we may come down and act as support once again. So I'm looking at price coming down just a little bit lower from where it is now, and then I'll be looking at possibly taking a long trade from here, to come back up into this region and retest this once again. As I said, I don't think we're going to run away from this price or from this level just yet. I do think that if we're going to roll over to the downside, that price is going to come back up, make a double top, possibly even on the lower time frames. Let me just clear off some of these levels here, guys, to make it a little bit more clearer. Too many lines on the chart can make things a bit confusing. What we may even do is just see price come back down from this sort of level and come back up and retest this area here. We can see we've got this sort of left shoulder. This could be a left shoulder, could be a head, and then we might make a right shoulder. But what I'm going to be looking for is price to sort of find support around this level. Yeah, I just drew that region on a minute ago, but you can see here we've sort of got resistance, support, sort of a neckline being formed here all around this area. So let me just make that an area of support once again, like I just did a minute ago. I'm going to be looking at price, finding support around here, maybe dipping a little bit lower to tap this trend line, and then push back up First target I'm going to be looking at coming up to around 1.1145 to 1.1150, and if we can blow through that, then I do see us coming back up to retest the previous double resistance, possibly making a double top and then rolling over to the downside. So I see a few smaller moves happening first. First off straight away in the market, so I'm going to be watching out for these levels. So here I'm looking out for a sort of support level around these levels. If I just took this as a little bit of a red so we can understand that that's a support, but I do see this pair possibly coming down just a little bit lower to tap this sort of trend line. So I'm looking at possible longs before an overall short. The US dollar though is all over the place, as we've seen, so we're watching this one, but going to be watching to see how this goes on. But if we are going to push down, I definitely see a small retracement first. So we're either going to be looking for a retracement long up first, or perhaps we'll see what the news does. If we do push up, then we might be looking for a short to come back down afterwards. So that's the sort of setup I'm looking at Euro USD at the moment. Euro GBP, I think it's time for this pair to go back up. This is the weekly chart, guys. Some of you guys will have seen on Instagram, I put up the 1,000 pip trade that we took back in August on this pair. I've just been holding that one for a long time. We've now hit 1,000 pips, or just 960 or something like that, all the way down here at that 0.8300 level. You can see that level is actually a monthly level. A monthly key level. We've tapped here a monthly key level 1, 2 that we've got before. So we broke that 8400, had a fast move down to 0.8300. Now I do think it's time for this pair to start pushing up. Euro news may help this push up a bit, but I do think the pound needs to retrace. But like I always say, what always happens from an area, we test it more than once. So here we push back down on the weekly and the daily. We've tested that level, but in no means do I think that this is just going to go off and say, see you later, I've hit that level once, I'm now going to start my bull trend. Here we've seen a little bit of a pullback already back towards 0.8400. I do think that this is coming back down to sort of around these levels, maybe test 8.300 again, or perhaps form a Fibonacci retracement. Now you guys hopefully will have seen the Fibonacci retracement webinar and what we've been looking at, and possibly we might see a little pullback on this move here to around the 68%. See how the 78% lines up perfectly with the 0.8300 level, so we could come back to that 78% level, tap that, and then take off and go to the upside. So I am watching out for this pair to move up higher, but not instantly. I do see this pair pushing back down. However, I don't think there's an intraday trade on that because it's too risky. Could be. We'll see what happens if we do push back up here. If we do push back up into sort of this region here and find a bit of resistance, as we can see that we found here with these spikes here, shooting stars and so on, we find a bit of resistance here, then we might see this pair then roll over. We might see a little intraday trade back down to here. Who knows? We may continue lower. So we'll have a look at that, guys. But overall, I do think it's time for this pair to push up higher. So we'll be watching for this to drop down lower, as expected, come back down towards the 8.300 level, and from there we'll be looking at possible longs. And then that trade is a trade that I'm going to be looking at a swing trade on. So it's about finding where we can get an entry here, and I do see this pair going up at least 400 pips. Euro AUD, a bit of a choppy pair here. Again, the levels are not on this pair at the moment. These are going to be all new levels being added. So just quickly, as I said, a lot of these pairs I've taken off the levels. I'm just going to show you how we can quickly analyze just using trend lines and price action like I've been teaching you guys. So here we can see weekly trend line pushed up. We had a nice push off this. We actually had a nice trade of this back in near the start of the community when we actually took a long from here. I think it was actually 1,000 pip move. We actually took a long from here, from this level, and we had a 1,000 pip move to the upside. It just came back down, retapped that again, pushed off. But you can see here we've had sort of a push up to the upside, haven't been able to sustain. We come back down to retest this trend line again. The third push up to the upside hasn't been able to sustain. So you can see that we had an initial big push, then a smaller, and it's starting to look like we could possibly roll over. It's so choppy, this one, guys, that I can't really call it right now. Weekly candle doji again. Daily chart just been a little bit all over the place. We have got sort of this trend line coming across the top here, keeping us in check. And you can just see here, like many pairs, it's just sort of creating a triangle formation on the weekly and daily charts. Now, when you see this, guys, it means that when we break out of these levels, just like on the smaller time frames, when we see the 1 hour triangles and so on, it means the big moves are going to happen. So obviously next week we might not see that big move, but what it's leading us up to is next year. Next year, then in January, beginning of the year, we could see breakouts of these sort of trends and triangles, and it could be trades that were holding for a long time, holding for weeks or months, where we get hundreds of thousands of pips. Because once you see a breakout, it's the same. It's the same rules on any time frame. It's just stronger on the higher time frame. So for instance, if we keep coming down, we have a fake out here, fake out to the upside and so on, but eventually we break out. If we were to break out to the upside, then there's so much room to the upside, because then it means that we're going to come up, we're going to test like resistance areas here, we're going to come all the way back up to the top, and then you can see, I don't know why that came up, but we can see that there's loads of sort of potential. So keeping an eye on this one at the moment, but it's a hard one to call, so I'm not sort of staying away from that at the moment. Euro NCD, however, a little bit more clearer to try and have a look at. Again, just using the direction lines that we use, you can see here 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. We are seeing a nice rejection here. Looked like we might be pushing up last week. At the start of the week, held off it because it seemed a bit too early. It's pulled back down, and then, yeah, pulled back down at the end of the week. Some crazy price action on this one at the end of the week. Even when we were in that trade, loads of you said that you didn't even get stopped out because the spike down lower was so fast that it missed the price, and you guys were in it. But eventually, I guess that you got taken out now as prices sort of pushed down. Daily chart, we can see a doji candle here, sort of creating a double bottom. But here, what we can see, guys, is on the 4 hour, it's choppy as hell. See here, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. What we need to do is don't try and guess that. That's just gambling. So what we need to do is we need to sit back and wait a little bit longer, let price just sort of figure out what it's doing around this level, and then once we see a bit more clarification, then we can take a trade. At the moment, it is choppy and it's hard to call it. I said you are just going to be sort of gambling if we're trying to pick it right now. We need to let the market just show us a little bit more. We're on steep downtrends here at the moment, as you can see. See, you've got outer, inner trend lines that are just drawing on quite quickly for you to see. But the most important one is the inner trend line at the moment. Let me just get rid of this. You can see here, it's inner trend line. We've got 0.1. Trend lines are so good, guys. You have to keep using them and learn how to use them so well. So here, as you're looking for price to perhaps come up, an idea that price isn't ready to break out yet is, see here, simple trend line, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, came up, tapped it, reversed back down. Again, we can also use smaller ones on smaller time frames. You can see we're rejecting that, and like I said, we just look like we're just trying to decide where to go, but just don't know where to go yet. Obviously, the weight is on with the bears at the moment, rejecting the higher time frames. We've got a counter trend line on here, but we've got to watch out for this and just see how price reacts around these levels. We could come back down, tap into this sort of support level, maybe try to break out this counter trend line. But again, there's nothing there for us just yet. What we have to do with these pairs is stand back and wait. Now, we've got Euro news early in the week, so hopefully that will give us some sort of an idea of what this wants to do next. We're basically waiting and being patient for the market to play its hand first. It's like poker, guys, like I explained. If you're, just think of it as a poker game. If you're trying to enter here, it's just a gamble. You don't know what the other player has or what the table's doing. But I'm not even a poker player, guys, but I'm just using this as an example. But then, as I said here, you're waiting for the market. You're waiting for the market to show you something and show you its hand first. Because here, if you enter, you don't know where the market's going. It's 50-50. But then if you wait for the market to make a push down, has a big 4 hour pin bar or something, for instance, then you can see, hold on, we've had this big 4 hour rejection of the lows. Now it looks like it's going to push up, and then we can take a trade. But right now, there's nothing. So you have to be patient and wait for that. Wait for those signs. Euro JPY is something that's quite interesting. I've been looking at, but at the moment, there's nothing too much for us just yet. This is quite interesting on the weekly, where we had this big spike down and at this level previously. We might see on over next year on a higher time frames, price push back down towards here, sort of creating inverse head and shoulders. But at the moment we are, let me just go on the weekly. We had a strong week last week. As you can see here, we've just broken out here, but we do also have this weekly just above, which I want to highlight. So you guys, remember when I've said before about breaking out of a trend line? What happens next? This is the inner trend line, 3 trend lines. There's 3 trend lines, inner, outer, long term. So we've just broken out of this trend line here. What price does is it magnetizes to the next. So whether it might go up and down, up and down, up and down, still once you break one, it's sort of, price is looking to go out and test the next one. Here we've broken out on a weekly. Yes, it does look a bit of a shooting star, but still look at the size of the body of the candle, quite strong. We've come out and taken out the highs above, but it's a bit of a tricky one here. So I'm watching this one at the moment. We've seen a breakout of this on a weekly chart. On a daily, we've had a really sort of nice bearish for the bears, looking at this, a nice shooting star. But you can see here we've got let me see, 0.1, 0.2, 1.1, 0.2, 0.3, came down, had a fake out, morning star formation on the daily chart, as you can see here. Again, so nice just from the trend line. Now that you understand how trend lines work and what price action to look for, you can see here 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, came down, broke out. Don't get pulled into the first move. Patience. Stand aside. Trendline strategy. Highlight that daily candle, that daily breakout candle. Next day, doji. Bang. Next day, daily candle. Bullish engulfing. These 3 candlesticks, 1, 2, 3, make a morning star formation. What happened when a candlestick's the strongest? On the higher time frames. This is daily. Now we've seen a push up. Now we have seen a we have to adjust this trend line, sorry, now that it's made that move. So what we have to understand is, yes, we've broken out of this trend line, so we're in buy territory, we're in long territory. We are in an uptrend here, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and we seem to be making a higher high, but we can see here we've just cleared this level at the moment. I'm going to just take off this trend line. Japanese yen pairs, we see a nice strong close, a strong close for Euro JPY above this level. Does look very, very bearish here, but we had some crazy price action on Friday. However, 4 hour, we looked like we're just pulling back and tapping that support. So what I'm looking at, possibly, which could be another trade for us at the start of the week. Again, we've got an inner trend line here. I'll just zoom in on this. We've got 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 down here. So you can see here 0.1, 0.2, price came back down, 0.3, trend line strategy, pin bar, bang, kept moving. But we adjust this here because now this is the new low. Price may come back down to around these levels. Could even come back down to around this resistance. But again, I don't think that price is just going to pull away from here and just come back down. Just because we've had this nice shooting star, I don't think that we're coming back down just yet. Even if we are to come down, I do see price pushing up higher. We are in an uptrend on Euro JPY. So what we're going to be looking out for is we might be finding some support here, possible trade back up higher. But we have to be aware that there is this trend line down below. We need something, you know, this magnetizes to trend lines, price magnetizes to trend lines. We need something to sort of confirm this level, this push, this price action move is still in an uptrend. So it may come down and test this sort of support, this trend line support, and push off again. But again, there's even when a bull trend is very, very strong, we can see here there's another trend as well. So you can see here on a daily, on the bullish trend, on the buy trend, here's the inner trend line, here's the outer trend line, and here's the long-term trend line. So when you're marking up your chart, you should have three trend lines to help to understand the direction. Now we know that trend lines that are just steeper are weaker to break. So here's the steepest, and this is more likely to break. So there is a possibility this could break down and come back down to this sort of outer trend line. But depending on the Euro news tomorrow, we could tap this level, which is also a level of support, as we can see here. Just zoom out on the 4 hour, see this level of support. So we broke resistance, and now we're just simply coming back and testing it as support. Yes, it's a big bearish candle, but let's not get pulled into one candle. This could just go bang and go back up. So I am watching Euro pairs and Euro JPY around this level. This may be an intraday trade for us that I'll be watching from here. So I'm going to be looking at possible long trades Not 100%, but I'm watching this level. This region here is very, very interesting. And as I said, after with a push down like this, we know it's not just going to keep pushing down and pushing down. It's going to have to make a pull back up. Maybe retest this level, make a double top. If it is going to be trend changing, we don't just make a top and then move away. If this is going to change this uptrend that we're currently in on a daily chart, if this trend is going to change, I do see some more resistance, or see more the price testing these levels a bit more at the top before that happening. So we're looking at price around these levels, and possibly seeing a push up early in the week. Pound pairs, very, very interesting. I think pound does need to come down. We've hit a lovely level on GBP USD 1.3500. I was looking at that early in the week and just seeing that price could have a crazy move and push up there. And this is where big banks, hedge funds, and people like that will come in and sell heavy on levels like this, 1.3500. That's why we use significant levels. So big banks, all the big boys putting millions and billions of pounds, selling at these levels, nice round figures, and now they could see a nice push down over the next couple of weeks. However, again, I don't think that this sell-off is going to be the last sort of test around these levels. I think that we could see this. We've seen a push back down already, bringing in short sellers already, but it's too soon for that. We could see a little push down first, but I do see this pair coming back up towards this region, possibly back to 13500 at least. I see another push back up to this level before pushing down. So what we can see here, once we can establish a low, like on the Fibonacci, once we've seen establish a support here, we can then see, right, is price retracing? Are we going to retrace and come back up towards the 61.8%? And what can you see there, guys? See how our first extension lines up beautifully with the weekly support. This says resistance is actually now support now that it broke through 1.3250. So what I'm looking out for, guys, is this to push up. May take an intraday trade for the push up. I do think that this is going to come back up. Obviously, the news might open and we might fall down to here straight away, which would be a bit unfortunate. But even from there, I do see this pair then definitely pushing back up. So wherever we come, we're going to look for a push back up with pound. I do see this pair come back up to retest these highs first. And then from there, we might see some lovely short trades down. So with pound in general, I'm looking for GBP pairs to have a bit of a push back up. We're seeing a nice push back down. You can see these levels on GBP JPY. We could push back down to sort of the monthly support 1.4500. From there, we're going to push back up, and we're going to either then push down or we're going to extend. So what I'm watching out for, guys, is I'm looking for that long. I'm looking for the long trade. We're going to take the long trade if it arises. We're going to come back up. Nice little short stop loss, hopefully. Bag a 1 to 2% risk reward, and then take some profit, and then hopefully catch the short down. So that's what I'm looking on these pairs. GBP CAD as well. I've just gone over that briefly on the GBP JPY because it's all quite similar. You can see here GBP USD, GBP JPY, similar situation, all similar moves. We can see here we've tapped that 1.4750 level. Again, I don't think we're just going to pull away from that, guys. We're going to come back up and retest those levels, whether it's early in the week or later in the week. We will have to see. The GBP CAD, obviously looking at this one, we were watching this one last week on a daily, was playing around here, playing around. This was the breakout strategy. We had loads and loads of nice resistance and shooting stars. Beautiful here, really. But this is where you have to understand the market. If you're just taking trades purely of technical analysis, it's never going to work because you don't know what's going on in the world. You don't know about fundamentals, and you have to understand what is going on. You have to understand what you're doing, trading the market. You can't trade a market if you don't know what the market is or what you're doing. A lot of people just are lazy and won't research and look into fundamentals. There's some people that maybe in other parts of the world wouldn't have known that there was an election on last week. Not in our community, but I'm sure there's people in the world who had trades on GBP but simply didn't even know that there was an election because they don't bother looking at it. They think that the technical analysis is everything, and it's not. Here we can see there was beautiful signs to take a trade as per the trendline strategy. 1, 2, 3. It was sort of, as I said, beautiful price action. but then we knew that there was pound news coming, so we didn't get involved. We didn't get caught out. Here we can see we had a huge sell-off, a huge sell-off here. That was about 100 pips or so. This sell-off, this daily candle, this was big and red the day before, on the day of the elections, on the Thursday. The elections came out at 10 o'clock, or the news came out at 10 o'clock, or just before. So this at 9:30 was big and red, very bearish. And then bang, news comes out, sucks it back up. Everyone's been caught out short selling, and then bang, up, hit through the roof. So see, but then if you look at the technical analysis here that I teach, see how simple it is. 0.1, 0.2. If you had a short trade and you had this trend line on, you said, okay, 0.3, let me take a bit of profit, 50%, and then I'll see if the other 50% rolls over and goes down to the downside. Stop loss at break even. People not with stop losses, or even people with stop losses, got hit and took a major hit on their account because the price skipped their stop loss and took them out and blew accounts. Crazy price action. So no wonder we didn't take a lot of trades last week, guys. And we took 2 trades. We're 150 pips in profit, but as I said, we've got to stop that break even. So here again, what I'm showing you is simple price action. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. Price comes down. Daily candle closes like that. That's a pin bar. You want to get out of your short trade if you see that. You see 0.1, 0.2. Go back to my trend line strategy video. These candlesticks, we went over them and explained pin bars on the 4 hour. 4 hour pin bar, 4 hour and daily is very strong for direction, to tell you the direction of the market. We went over on this trend line strategy showing how price would come down. You'd see a 4 hour pin bar and then it would push up, and then we adjusted the trend line. So now we adjust the trend line here. But this is a daily, guys. So see how strong this is. Higher time frame, stronger the candlestick. Daily pin bar, bang, we went through the roof. Now I'm watching this one, keeping an eye on this. Again, I still think that pound is bringing in a lot of short sellers at the moment. I don't think it's time for it to roll over just yet. I see another push up to the upside, but there is a lot of pound news this week, so we will have to see. But this sort of level, this sort of area, I'm looking for a few more tests on this first before looking for a short trade on these pairs. Same with GBP AUD. I said I'm interested in this one coming into next week, but again, just simple, just one trend line on the chart, nothing else. Just to show you how simple it can be. 0.1, 0.2, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, doji candle, morning star formation, push back up, third touch of the trend line, off we go. Came back down. So what do we do here, guys? Once we have this doji candle or this fake out, we adjust the trend line like that. So then we came up for the third touch again. Price came down, pin bar, closed, bang, up to the upside. But it was too risky. It was literally a gamble taking pound trades because anything could have happened. And even if you're right, what I've seen in the past with when the elections happen is that even when you're right, even if you did take a long trade, you could have, as the news came out, you could have seen 100, 200 pip spike to the downside and then a 300-400 pip move to the upside. So even if you were right, the broker would have took you out, or the market would have took you out, because it's manipulation heaven at times like that. USDJPY, guys, this is a pair, right? So this pair, I do think it can come up higher now. We had a 100 pip trade on this. Price was showing us it was going to come down. What I see here, trend line direction, is we can see here. Let me just adjust this. We can see here, price is coming up to this level. Let me just go to the weekly chart actually. Let's have a look at this. So we can see here, price is coming up to its third touch on the weekly chart, 0.1, 0.2, and we're very close to 0.3. Like I just mentioned, on another pair, price will want to come up, or we might have just hit this. I think we've just hit this trend line actually, guys. Yeah, we've just hit that now. But I think we're going to retest this a little bit more. We're very close to a monthly resistance level, 110.00. Price has pushed up, tapped this level, which is very nice, creating a double top, high low, high low, high low, high, and then we couldn't break. It looked like we were going to break lower last week, and push down to this weekly 10800 level. But we had this accumulation here, and then we pushed back up. Now that we've had that, I think that we can come up and tap this level first before any move down, if any, at the moment. So again, like Euro JPY, we've had that push up, hit that level, come back down. Let me just show you Euro JPY, guys. Remember, this Japanese yen pushed back down, similar with USD JPY. But however, I don't think it's ready to come down just yet. Just look at this daily level. You can see this daily level of resistance over here, resistance and area of resistance here. 4 hour we've come back down, but we're not looking too strong. You can see how we've come back down and we've sort of found this support here. I think that price can easily have another push up to the upside. We've got a higher high here, a higher low, higher high, a higher low, and I think that USD JPY can have another push and go up to that 1.100 and hit that level possibly before the end of the year, to tap that level, and then we'll see where this wants to go next year. So you can see here on the daily, quite a doji candle on Friday. So I'm going to be watching out for that level, which I just showed you. I just deleted that level there, and again, possible intraday trade. Possible intraday trade for this 70 pips or so up to the upside. But I'm watching out for this one. Might drop a little bit lower, but these areas are interesting for me and us coming into the next week. See here, prices finding some support. Might see another little push down first. We might see a little push down here first, but this level is important. This last sort of lower high here, and while we trade above that, you might see a really nice trade come up into that level. So we could even be a 100 pip trade if we come down a little bit lower. Would be nicer because we could get a nice tight stop loss there as well. So watching out for that, guys. That's an interesting one for us. You can also see that level coming across here. We stretch that across, support, resistance. So price could come back down into that level, and then we might see a push back up to the upside. So that's an interesting one that I'm looking out for. USD CAD could go lower. Choppy one, this one. Hard to call. Could go lower here because we've seen this breakout last week. Seen this breakout. I'll just show you on the higher time frames though, guys. We got this long-term trend coming across the top and this long-term trend coming across the bottom. On the daily, we saw this pair trying to break out here last week. Then we had another daily candle, and we had two daily candles which are doji candles. If we highlight the breakout candle, which is this candle here, we just highlight that as shown. Then you can see we haven't been able to break out yet. However, we're not being able to manage to push back up very strong. You can see here resistance, came back up, found resistance, and then we pushed down. We are still below this trend line. We haven't been able to push up just yet. It is a bit choppy around here, guys, but it should be. This is the level to watch, really. This box that I've got highlighted. If we can sustain above this, then yes, we can push back up. But once we break below this, then I think that USD pair, this pair, is going to come back down to this level. But we need to keep an eye on it. We've got Canadian news coming out this week, a few different days. Sort of creating on a low time frame here, guys. Sort of creating an inverse head and shoulders. That's one thing that interests me for a possible push back up. See here, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. If I just put a support across this level here, you can see how it's tapping out perfectly. Just take this away. I'll take this away as well, just clear up the screen a little bit. We can see here that we are just sort of rejecting this level. So we can continue to reject. We also know that this is, we're rejecting that trend line strategy level as well, this sort of box here. So it's one to watch out for. It's quite choppy, but maybe we might see a long trade from here. But we have to see how the US dollar is going to act, and also with USD JPY. But at the moment, we can now adjust this. If we can come down and can't break this trend line, then we can be looking for a long trade. USD Swiss, one that we had a long trade on last week. Again, USD, the US dollar is going to matter to see what happens there. US dollar was all over the place last week. We've broken out of this long-term range that you can see here daily on the daily chart and weekly. We've been stuck in this for a long time. We just look at this on a weekly chart. We can see here it looks like we might have had a bit of manipulation or a little bit of a push to bring in some short sellers here, break out of this long-term range, break out and push back up. But we haven't been able to close back up above, which is one thing, is a telltale sign that possibly we don't have enough pressure to push back up. So we have actually closed slightly lower than this sort of range level. Then we go down to the daily. We can see here got really nice price action to show that had this 3-pin price action to push back up, but we haven't been able to really get going. So what I'm looking out for, guys, you see that trend line I had on a minute ago, 0.1, 0.2 here, and then 0.3. So again, 0.1, 0.2, could take a trade there, 0.3, bang, down we go. But then once we come back up and break it, what do? We need to adjust the trend line. So this is now the trend line, 0.1, 0.2. We're watching this as it comes up for a third test. Can we break above or can't we? At this point, I'm going to be waiting for this pair to either make a break up, then come down, make maybe an inverse head and shoulders, and then we'll be looking for a long trade. But if we can't break up, or we don't break this trend, then it's possible that we might see this pair push down. If I go to the weekly chart on this one, guys, quickly, just something that I can see just lurking just below us. And remember, price is like a magnet to these trend lines. You can see here, lurking just below us here on the weekly chart is this weekly supporting trend line. So price could still push down a little bit and tap that level. We're not a million miles away from it. We're about 150 pips or so. So we'll have a look and see, paying attention to this level, but we're just going to keep that one on the watch list for the moment and just see how that gets on. Aussie dollar, nice push down last week from that level. I highlighted this double top, so you can see this. We made a top, pushed up, highlighted this on Thursday evening, I think, and then we came back up on Thursday. Friday, tapped that level, spiked just above, like we always see before a reversal, spike above the previous high, and then push down. For this one, again, however, I still don't think it's fully timed yet for this to roll over. See how we're still sitting above that 0.6875 level. Go to the 4-hour chart. I think we can see this pair possibly push back up once more again as well. Come back and retest this level. Again, this may be a trade that we might look for, a possible intraday trade to go back up. But I'm going to let the market open. We've got Aussie dollar news on Tuesday. This could come down a little bit lower, down to maybe these regions here, this support region here, and then we might see some support for this to push back up. So we might be looking at that trade, but yeah, I do see this pair coming back up higher to retest these resistance once again. But again, we need to keep an eye on, which I'm going to come to in a minute, is the US dollar, because it has been all over the place. But just there, you can see how the Aussie dollar couldn't really break and sustain below the monthly or the weekly level 0.6875, which gives us the indication that the bulls still have some control here. High, 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 low, higher, high, making a higher low, and then we might see another push up to the upside just yet. Aussie dollar, Japanese yen. So on this one, what we can see is on a weekly chart. So weekly, we've been obviously in a major downtrend here for quite some time at the start of the year. But then what we've seen is we've seen a nice move up since September. We're making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. But we're actually currently now making a double top. So this is interesting here. We've had a sort of evening star formation, push back up, find a resistance once again. On the weekly chart here, you can see we are in an uptrend. 0.1, 0.2, we had 0.3, dropped down to the daily chart, and we can see we just had to keep adjusting this when price was just hugging onto it and bouncing off. And then you can see here, I said pin bar, price came back down, and then price pushed back off. So we now got to adjust that once again. So we're creating a bit of a triangle formation here. Too early for this one just yet. Aussie dollar, Japanese yen. Watching it around here though is something to highlight and just to look at. We've got this double top. Watching Aussie dollar and Japanese yen over the next couple of days. Again, I don't see this coming down before a push back up to these levels. Could be possibly an intraday trade back up to these levels, and from here we'll be watching to see whether this double top can sustain or whether we're going to come back down and then ride this one down to sort of trend test this trend line once more, come back down and find this as support, which would be interesting. So keeping an eye on this one, and we'll be updating on that over the next few days. NZD USD, very interesting, very interesting one. We've been watching this and seeing how the New Zealand dollar is gaining strength over the last couple of weeks. We pushed up here on Friday, big spike to the upside, closing back below the trend line. So this is interesting coming into this week. I see New Zealand dollar weakness as we've seen a really nice break back below this trend line. I do see New Zealand dollar weakness. But like other pairs, like on Aussie dollar, I see Aussie dollar weakness. but I do see this pair coming back up first, to maybe testing these levels again and then pushing down to retest this sort of triangle formation here again. Or we've also got this inner trend line just here. So basically, I'm going to be trying to capitalize on all moves. I see a smaller move before the bigger move, and given that this week I want to get those smaller moves, or last week and a half coming up to Christmas, so we get as much out of the market as possible. So that's same with Aussie dollar, Japanese yen. See a little push up first, and you can see here sort of similar fashion. Got a left shoulder here with NZD USD. I see this pair pushing back up. You can see here just by price action we've got a higher high, a higher low, a higher high, and we're already sort of creating a new higher low. We haven't even come down to test this level, this support level here. So I'm just going to move off that trend line. You know that's the daily trend line, and we close below it. I'm going to move this off just to keep things clear. You can see here we haven't even come down to test this, so the bulls look like they're going to actually push this one back up again. So we've got two options here. We're going to push up to here and test that the head and shoulders level, or we're going to push up and maybe test the double top. Either way, I'm going to be looking at possibly taking a trade back up into these levels. Again, very, very short intraday trades, maybe like 1-1, 2-1 trades. Probably not 1-1, I don't like those, but at least a 2-1 risk reward. So we're looking for a quick 2% for a small 1% risk. I do see us pushing back up to sort of these levels, pushing back up to here, because if this is trend changing, if we are going to find start changing the trend, then we're going to test these levels more than once, like I keep explaining, guys. It's not going to be just one shooting star and then off we go, bang, we're coming down to 0.6300. We're going to test these levels. The market has to test 1, 2, and the golden time number 3 times usually. So we've got 1, 2. We're going to test these levels one more time and see if they can sustain. But what we might see is a nice trade back up, and this could keep pushing up to 0.6700. We don't know. NZD is surprisingly been very, very strong in the last couple of weeks. So I am looking at this pair making a move up first, at least, and then from these levels we might be looking at possibly taking short trade. But remember, we're at 0.66400. If we 6640, if we come back up to here, it's only 60 pips push up to the upside. If to hit these monthly levels, we could see some monthly levels hit before the end of the year, and before we have big moves next year. Especially if the US dollar weakens, then this is easily attainable and we can push up. So these intraday trades that we're taking could possibly turn into something a little bit bigger. New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, sort of similar situation. We've got this one doji candle here. Like I said, I don't think it's just going to be a quick roll over to the downside. I see a bit more movement around here, maybe coming up to this level, this resistance level here. We could push up into that level, so I'm going to be watching out for that. And NZD CAD, similar one. So remember on NZD CAD, guys, like I explained a couple of last week, I think I drew on this sort of zone. Again, really nice and clear, just to show you how simple things can be at times. You can see this whole area that I highlighted last week for NZD CAD and told you what I'd be watching out for. So here we've actually come straight up, very, very strong into that sort of resistance level that I was drawing on through all the old price action. Now, can you remember what I was looking out for here? I drew on the Fibonacci tool. So I was coming up here, and we were looking at this come up and hit the 61.8%. We came up and hit that, no problem. Then it looked like we might come up and tap this 78%. We've had this weekly doji candle. When another thing on Fibonacci, guys, is when we come very, very close to a Fibonacci level, we normally tap it. So if you see price come very, very close to 50%, I wouldn't sell, because we would normally come up and tap that level at some point. So for instance, what I'm talking about here is on this level, on a weekly on this weekly fib, we're so close to that 78%. I think we're going to come up and actually tap it. 0.8749. Let's call it the round figure. We know our market likes to move to round figures. Let's go to 0.8750. So I do think that price, even though we've got this nice shooting star formation here, looking quite good. 1 drive, 2 drive, 3 drive, double top here. I'm going to be watching out for how price reacts around these levels and see if it can come up here and go for one more move to the upside. It may not, but that's something that I'm looking out for. At the moment, I'm not looking at selling NZD just yet. I do think NZD is going to sell off fairly soon. I do think we've had this big stretch to the upside, but again, don't think it's going to be too early in the week. I think we're going to have maybe see one more push, and then we can look at taking short trades. So here, 3 trend lines, 1, 2, and then we've got this inner trend line here. And you can see now what we're doing. We're just sitting on that inner trend line. So we could easily see this just have one more pop up to the upside, maybe create a right shoulder to this left shoulder here, confirm for the 3rd time that price is now going to reverse, and then we could see a big breakdown through all of these trend lines. So that's what I'm sort of watching out for. Dollar index, very, very interesting one. Weekly chart here. I think I explained on last Sniper Sundays how this pair loves to break out of a trend line and then pull back up. Here we've got this sort of spike to the outside of this trend line. With this one, it's tricky. Pound's been all over the place for months. But yeah, here we can see we broke out, came down towards this monthly support level, never actually touched it. Had this bullish engulfing on Friday. Still, it's hard to see this pushing all the way back up just yet. We've got a trend line coming across here. We drop down to the 4-hour. Let's just have a look on the lower time frames. I'm going to get rid of this one because we know we've broken out of that at the moment. Now we need to have a closer look at the closer time frames. And here we can see we're just breaking out. We had this 4-hour. See, we're hugging against it. Kept having a fake out, so you have to keep adjusting. Had 0.2, came back up, had 0.3, pushed back down. Going to adjust this. While this is trading below this 4-hour trend line, I see US dollar coming back down to 96.50, which means we could possibly see the US dollar pairs push up first. But anything can happen with the US dollar, so we have to keep an eye on this one. There's not too much really else to say about this at the moment. We have got this trend line. We are in a downtrend. So while we trade below this trend line, we are open to the US dollar weakening once again and coming back down to these levels. So you might see just a little bit of strength first, back up to this level, and then we might see a sell-off. So we have to monitor this one very, very close this week. But with a lot of other pairs, which are US dollar crosses, it's a tricky week because we've got Euro news that could affect Euro. And the US dollar is not going to come into play here. Then we might see pound, the early pound news affect the pound. And then later on in the week, we've got US dollar news, which will then could change things again. So that's why I think it's going to be choppy this week, much like it has been many weeks. So that's why we're going to look at taking intraday trades, get in and out, bank some pips, bank some profit, and then we'll look for the next setup. So that's what we're sort of looking out for this week, a little bit different than normal. And that's about it for tonight, guys. Now remember, tomorrow is the live stream to talk about Fibonacci. Answer your questions on that, and I'll let you know about the new feature that is coming to the community. I think you guys are going to really love that. Is there anything else? I don't think there is. I think we've covered everything. Okay, guys, that's it. I will catch up with you on market open if there's any major moves. If not, then it will be the morning call tomorrow morning to get us set off and see what's happened during the Asian session. And then we'll be concentrating on Euro pairs as it's a very busy Euro morning, and then followed by pound. So speak to you soon, guys. Thank you. See you soon.